I wouldn't have said so, no. Not really. But no, I don't get the feeling that she's wildly optimistic about life. A pragmatist, I think.
The royal household had survived scandals, rivalries, betrayals, and public storms before, but nothing prepared them for the morning Princess Anne walked into a private Windsor meeting, with a sealed file in her hand. By the time the final page was read aloud, Camilla's public role was no longer protected by tradition, ceremony, or marriage. One hidden codicil had changed everything. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. Anne did not rush when she entered the room. She carried the file with the steady control of someone who understood that one wrong word could wound the monarchy more deeply than any public scandal. Charles watched her from the far side of the table, his face tight, his hands still, his silence louder than anger. William stood nearby, already sensing that this was not another palace disagreement to be softened by polite language. Two senior household officials waited behind closed doors, not as witnesses to gossip, but as witnesses to power being used. The closed room made the moment heavier. Windsor Castle, the old royal residence where private family matters often became matters of state, now held a decision that could reshape the king's household. A codicil means an added instruction, attached to an existing document, and this one had been hidden inside a private royal order, a confidential direction used to protect the monarchy when personal conflict threatened public duty. Anne placed the sealed file on the table. She stalled. Charles did not reach for it. He knew what it meant before anyone spoke. William knew it too. But the prince still needed to hear the words. Anne opened the file and read with a calm that almost felt cruel. The codicil gave her full authority to review Camilla's role and remove the queen consort from public duties if the stability of the crown was judged to be at risk. Public duties are the official appearances, ceremonies, charity visits, and royal engagements that show the nation who stands at the center of palace life. Losing them would not only change Camilla's schedule, it would change her standing. It would tell the world that the woman beside Charles no longer stood beside the monarchy in the same way. Charles lowered his eyes as Anne formally invoked the hidden codicil and ordered Camilla's immediate suspension from all public duties, pending royal review. The king did not object. That silence cut deeper than any refusal could have done. William took the final clause and read it twice, because the language left no escape. This was not symbolic authority. It was operational power, direct and active, strong enough to remove Camilla from appearances, patronage visibility, ceremonial roles, and the public rhythm of royal life. Camilla was not in the room when the order was made, and that absence made the decision colder. Anne understood that. Charles understood it too. William felt the cruelty of it, but he also felt the danger of delay. By the end of the meeting, only one instruction remained. Camilla had to be told in person, and Anne refused to let anyone else carry the blow. But before she could face Camilla, the palace had to confront the painful truth that this was not just about authority. It was about every person whose future depended on how this decision landed. No royal crisis is ever carried by one person alone. Behind the codicil stood a wounded king, a controlled princess royal, a watchful future king, and a queen consort who had spent years fighting to be accepted. In that closed world of titles and duty, each of them had something to lose. But Camilla had the most visible thing on the line, her place beside the crown. Charles stayed behind after the meeting ended, and the silence around him felt like judgment. He removed his glasses slowly, set them beside the sealed file, and stared at the table as if the words Anne had read were still lying there between them. The king had spent a lifetime waiting for the throne, but now that throne demanded something painful from him. He could defend Camilla as a husband, or he could protect the monarchy as a sovereign. Both choices carried a cost he could not escape. Anne did not soften when she remained across from him. She understood the crown as more than a symbol. It meant the institution of monarchy itself, public trust, the duty, and the family machine that had to survive beyond any one marriage. Codicil had placed her in a brutal position. but she did not step back from it. She had been trusted because she could separate affection from obligation. That was why Charles feared her answer before he even asked the question. William watched his father, with a grief he kept tightly controlled. The prince knew Charles was not simply protecting Camilla. He was protecting the woman who had stood beside him through the most fragile years of his reign. Yet William also knew something colder. Every hesitation now could reach further than one marriage. It could shape the monarchy his children would inherit, and the future king could not ignore that burden. His respect for Charles pulled him one way, but his fear for the crown pulled him harder. Camilla's public duties were not just calendar entries. They were the official appearances, charity visits, ceremonies, and national moments that proved she had been accepted into the visible life of the monarchy. Each event gave the queen consort a place beside Charles in front of the nation. To lose them meant more than losing engagements. It meant losing proof. It meant the acceptance she had fought years to build could be removed by one instruction Anne had now brought into force. Charles finally looked up and asked whether the order could be delayed. His voice carried the ache of a husband trying to buy time, but Anne heard the danger inside that request. Delay would allow confusion to grow. Delay would let Camilla fight from within the very system, now trying to contain the damage. Anne's face remained steady, but the burden showed in the stillness of her hands. She knew invoking the Codicil would make her look ruthless, perhaps even cruel, but the alternative was paralysis. William said nothing at first, and that silence told Charles the answer before Anne spoke. The prince did not want humiliation for Camilla, but he wanted clarity for the monarchy. Anne then gave the line that closed the room around them. Delay was exactly what the Codicil had been written to prevent. Charles absorbed it without reply, and in that quiet defeat, the family understood that this was no longer a question of whether Camilla would be protected. It was a question of why the safeguard had been created in the first place. And the reason it had been written at all reached back to one private moment that changed how the Dürr family viewed Camilla's role forever. The Codicil did not appear from nowhere. It was born from a moment no one inside the palace forgot, even if no one outside those walls understood its meaning at the time. Months before Anne opened the sealed file, one ceremony ended with a closed door, a shaken aide, and a conversation so sharp that it pushed the royal household toward a hidden safeguard. Camilla had felt the sting long before the final guest left Windsor. The Windsor Commonwealth reception was meant to be a formal gathering where representatives from across the Commonwealth met senior royals in a carefully planned order. That mattered because every seat, every greeting, and every place in the room carried meaning inside palace life. A reception is not just a social event in that world. It is a public message about rank, trust, and who speaks closest to the king. Camilla believed her place beside Charles should have been unquestioned. But Anne had followed the household plan exactly, and that plan had not placed the queen consort where she expected to stand. The corridor changed everything after the doors closed. Camilla turned to Anne with controlled anger and accused her of treating her like a temporary figure, not the king's wife. She did not shout, but every word landed hard. Anne absorbed it without flinching, because the Princess Royal understood the deeper danger beneath the complaint. This was not only about ceding authority, it was about patronage precedence, meaning the order of importance given to royal charity roles and public duties. It was about who had the right to represent Charles when the monarch was not speaking for himself. Charles stepped between them, but his hesitation wounded both women at once. Camilla looked at the king and saw a husband who would not fully defend her. Anne looked at him and saw a monarch too slow to control a fracture forming inside his own household. That single pause became the moment everyone later remembered. It made Camilla feel exposed. It made Anne feel alarmed. And it made Charles appear caught between love and command at the exact second the crown needed certainty. A shaken aide documented the exchange in a confidential household account later that night, recording the words, the pause, and the fear that personal influence was beginning to challenge royal duty. A household safeguard was then requested, meaning a written protection designed to act if private tension threatened public stability. The Codicil was attached quietly to a private royal instruction, stored away from ordinary briefing files, and known only to a tiny circle, trusted to protect the monarchy from itself. Anne later told William, in a recorded private conversation, that the reception had been the point of no return. The prince listened carefully, as she explained that the issue had never been one argument, one chair, or one wounded pride. It had been the warning sign that Camilla could turn acceptance into leverage, and that Charles might be too emotionally trapped to stop it. William finally understood that the family had not stumbled into this crisis by accident. They had been walking toward it for months, step by step, silence by silence, until the hidden history could no longer stay buried. Now Anne had to walk into the most dangerous conversation of her royal life. The confrontation did not begin with shouting. It began with silence. Camilla stood in a private sitting room at Windsor, while Anne entered with the file held against her side. Not like a weapon, but like a verdict. Charles remained outside. William waited down the corridor. For the first time, the Queen Consort faced the Princess Royal without ceremony between them. Camilla did not step forward when Anne closed the door. She watched the file first, then the woman holding it, and the stillness between them became more dangerous than anger. Windsor had seen royal arguments before, but this room stripped the moment down to its rawest form. A private sitting room is a smaller royal room, used for personal talks away from public ceremony. And that mattered, because no aide could soften the words, no official could interrupt the silence, and no polished statement could protect either woman from what had to be said. Anne placed the file down and told Camilla the hidden codicil had been invoked. A codicil means an added instruction attached to an existing document, and this one gave the Princess Royal power to act when the monarchy's stability was judged to be at risk. Camilla heard the words, but for a few seconds, she seemed unable to accept them. Her hand moved to the back of a chair. She gripped it tightly, not from weakness, but from disbelief. Then she asked the question that cut straight through the room. Did Charles approve this, or did he simply allow it? Anne felt the pain in that question, but she did not retreat from it. She told Camilla that her public duties were suspended with immediate effect, meaning the official ceremonies, charity visits, appearances, and royal engagements that placed her before the nation would now be removed from review. That mattered, because those duties were not just entries on a calendar. They were proof of public acceptance. They were the living sign that the Queen Consort belonged beside the king. Without them, her place would still exist privately, but publicly, it would begin to disappear. Camilla's face hardened as the meaning settled. She asked whether this was punishment for being disliked, and Anne finally let the weight in her own voice show. The Princess Royal said this was not about popularity. It was about consequence. It was about the monarchy looking divided when it needed discipline. It was about public trust becoming weaker every time private conflict escaped into duty. Camilla looked wounded then, not defeated, and that made the exchange sharper. She had spent years fighting to be accepted, and now acceptance was being taken from her by someone who spoke like duty itself. Anne did not raise her voice when Camilla asked if she was being erased. That was the sharpest moment of all. The Queen Consort stood perfectly still, waiting for denial, mercy, or even hesitation. Instead, Anne answered that she was being stopped before more damage became permanent. The codicil did not require Camilla's consent. It did not ask for her permission. It gave Anne the right to begin removing duties from the public calendar, and both women understood that once the machinery started, even Charles would struggle to reverse it. The door opened after the meeting, and the damage stepped into the corridor with them. Camilla walked past William without speaking. The prince did not stop her. He only watched her pass, reading in her silence what no briefing could ever explain. Anne followed moments later, controlled, but visibly burdened, and William understood that the private rupture had become a family fracture. But Anne's authority was not just emotional force. It was backed by a structure of power that even Charles could not easily undo. Power inside the royal household rarely announces itself. It moves through signatures, sealed instructions, calendars, patronage lists, and the quiet removal of names from schedules. That was what made the codicil so devastating. It did not need drama to work. Once Anne invoked it, the machinery began moving, and Camilla's influence started disappearing one line at a time. Anne knew the force of what she had started, and that knowledge made her quieter. not louder. The Codicil gave her authority over Camilla's public-facing duties, meaning the official appearances, ceremonial attendance, household briefings, and charity roles that placed the queen consort before the nation. A patronage is a royal link to a charity or public cause, and it matters because it shows which causes carry royal support. To review those duties was not simple scheduling. It was control over visibility, and visibility was power. Palace staff received the revised instructions with the kind of silence that follows a blow. One senior courtier opened the new calendar and stopped when he saw Camilla's fentions marked for review before confirmation. A royal engagement means an official event attended on behalf of the monarchy, and each one helps build public trust around the person who appears. Removing them meant organizations would wait, invitations would stall, and the queen consort's public rhythm would weaken before anyone outside the palace knew why. Charles felt the walls closing in long before anyone spoke to him directly. The king asked a private secretary whether a monarch could be protected from his own household's decision, and the question revealed the helplessness he had tried to hide. He had the crown, but Anne had the trigger. He had the marriage, but she had the claws. That contrast cut through him, because the institution he led was now using its own safeguards to limit the woman he loved. William privately supported the process, but not with pleasure. The prince believed the crown could not survive constant internal contest, especially if every public duty became a test of personal loyalty. He did not want Camilla humiliated, and he did not want Charles cornered, but he understood why Anne had moved quickly. The future king saw the danger clearly. If the household hesitated, the monarchy would look ruled by private pressure instead of public duty. Anne's authority was temporary, but inside its scope, it was absolute. Temporary meant the power was meant for a crisis, not forever, but absolute meant no one could ignore it, while the crisis remained active. That was the hidden strength of the Codicil. It did not replace Charles. It restrained the damage around him. It gave Anne the right to act fast, before emotion, delay, or palace loyalty could blur the line between love and duty. The first revised duty list reached Camilla's office before the palace made a single public statement. Her private secretary opened it, saw the crossed-out names, and froze. She understood at once that this was not a pause. This was a royal demotion, moving through paper before it moved through headlines. When Camilla finally saw what had been removed, the emotional cost of the Codicil became impossible to hide. The first visible wound was not a speech, a headline, or a palace statement. It was a calendar. Camilla sat at her desk while a private secretary placed the revised schedule before her, and the silence that followed felt heavier than accusation. Engagements once built around her presence were gone. Names remained, dates remained, but her place had vanished. Camilla did not touch the pages at first. She looked at the private secretary, and the woman lowered her eyes, because she already understood what the schedule meant. Public duties are the official ceremonies, charity visits, national appearances, and royal events that show the country which members of the family are trusted to stand for the crown. That was why this mattered. This was not a diary change. This was the first public shape of a private removal, even though the palace had not yet dared to say it aloud. The queen consort turned the first page slowly. A hospital visit had been postponed. A reception had been reassigned. A charity event she had prepared for personally now carried another royal name in the space, where hers had been. Her expression hardened, but the pain beneath it was harder to hide. Every crossed-out line told her that Anne's order had already moved beyond words. The Codicil had entered the calendar, and once power reached the calendar, it reached the outside world next. Charles entered before she spoke. He saw the pages spread across the desk, and he understood without asking which duty had hurt her most. The king had come to offer comfort, but comfort was not what Camilla needed. She needed reversal. She needed him to say that the order would be stopped, that Anne had gone too far, that the crown would not allow her place to be cut away quietly. Instead, he stood there with sadness in his face, and that sadness wounded her more deeply than anger. Camilla asked whether this was meant to be temporary, but her own voice betrayed that she already knew the answer. A revised schedule means a changed official plan. And inside palace life, that kind of change matters, because charities, hosts, broadcasters, and staff all build around it. Once her name disappeared from enough events, the nation would not need an announcement to understand what had happened. Absence would become the message. Silence would become confirmation. Aides began making careful calls before lunch. They told organizations that the Queen Consort's attendance was under review, that diary pressures had changed, that alternative royal representation would be arranged. The words sounded harmless, but every call carried the same hidden truth. Anne's authority was reshaping the public face of the monarchy before Camilla had any chance to defend herself. The private secretary knew it. Charles knew it. And now she knew it too. Camilla finally looked at Charles and asked whether he would fight for her. The king opened his mouth, then stopped. And that pause said what no palace statement ever could. He loved her, but love had met a locked door. Anne's decision stood on the other side of it, firm and unmoved. That pause forced the next shift, because the crisis could no longer be managed by offices, aides, or carefully worded instructions. It had to be faced by blood. The turning point came not in a council room, but in a private conversation between father and son. No secretaries, no courtiers, no carefully prepared notes. Charles stood near the window. Older than his crown made him appear, while William chose every word with the caution of a son who loved his father and the firmness of a future king who could not ignore the damage. Charles did not turn when William entered. He already knew why the prince had come, and that made the silence harder to bear. Camilla's schedule had been altered. Anne's order had begun reshaping the household, and the king could feel the palace adjusting around him without asking for permission. A codicil means an added instruction attached to an existing document, and this one mattered, because it gave Anne a legal path inside the family structure to act when private emotion threatened public duty. Charles understood the meaning. He simply hated the cost. William spoke carefully, because anger would have broken the room. He told Charles that the codicil was not a rebellion against him. It was a safeguard, a protection written for the moment when the monarchy could no longer appear, governed by personal loyalty. The prince knew those words would wound his father, but he also knew hesitation had already carried them too far. If the crown looked trapped by one marriage, the public would begin to question whether duty still ruled the palace at all. Charles finally looked at his son, and the grief in his face changed the conversation. He admitted that watching Camilla lose her public role felt like watching part of his reign, being judged. The king had fought for years to bring her fully into royal life, and now Anne's decision made that success feel fragile, almost borrowed. Camilla's duties were not just appearances. They were proof that the queen consort had been accepted. Losing them meant Charles was not only seeing his wife reduced, he was seeing his own choices measured. William answered with sadness, not triumph. He told Charles that protecting the crown sometimes meant allowing painful decisions to stand, even when they hurt the people closest to them. The prince did not pretend Camilla's humiliation was easy to watch. He did not pretend Anne's action was gentle. But he said the monarchy could survive pain better than confusion, and it could survive anger better than open division. Charles listened, and for the first time, he did not defend the pause that had brought them here. Charles then said the words William had been waiting for, though neither man wanted to hear them. He admitted Anne had acted, because he could not act quickly enough without tearing his marriage and monarchy apart. That confession changed everything. The king would not obstruct the codicil. Camilla's removal from public duties would proceed. He gave William one final instruction before the prince left. Make sure the public hears dignity, not revenge. William carried that instruction out of the room like a burden. Charles remained behind, knowing love had not lost its meaning, but it had lost its power to command the institution. Anne's order still stood. Camilla's absence would soon be noticed, and dignity would become fragile once the world began to see that the queen consort had vanished from the royal stage. The story broke not with a palace confession, but with absence. One empty chair at a national service became the image no statement could control. By noon, broadcasters were speaking in careful tones. Newspapers were rewriting front pages. And crowds outside Buckingham Palace were staring through the gates, as if the building itself might reveal what had happened inside. Camilla's absence reached the nation before the palace found the courage to explain it. The service of national thanksgiving at Westminster Abbey, a formal church gathering, where senior royals appear together to mark national duty and public unity, had been planned as a display of calm. That mattered, because these services are meant to show the monarchy standing, as one family, before the country. Instead, her reserved chair stayed empty, and the silence around it became louder than any announcement. Anne sat in a prominent place, composed, still, and unreadable. William noticed the weight in her expression, as attention shifted toward the empty seat, and the prince understood that the codicil had now moved beyond private rooms. A codicil means an added instruction, attached to an existing document, and this one had stayed hidden until it gave Anne the authority to suspend Camilla's two's public duties. Now the result was visible. The queen consort was not beside Charles. She was not representing the crown. She was missing from the very stage that once proved her acceptance. Charles carried the moment with painful restraint. The king kept his face steady. But William knew his father had to feel every camera pause, every careful whisper, every second of public notice. This was why the empty chair mattered so deeply. It did not simply show that Camilla had missed a service. It showed that her place had been changed by force, and the monarchy could no longer pretend the decision was only an internal adjustment. Camilla watched the broadcast privately, motionless, with the sound turned low. She heard commentators discuss her absence in polished phrases, but every phrase still found the wound. The queen consort did not need anyone to say the codicil aloud. She could see its effect in the way her empty chair became the story. She had fought for years to stand beside Charles in public, and now the public was learning how quickly that place could disappear. The palace issued a restrained statement before evening, confirming that Camilla's public duties were under review. It did not name Anne. It did not name the codicil. It spoke of schedule adjustments and royal continuity. But the soft language could not hide the hard truth. One broadcaster later framed it as the most dramatic internal correction of the modern royal household, forcing the palace to stop pretending absence was ordinary. The next morning made denial impossible. A newspaper front page showed a stark photograph of the empty abbey chair under the headline, "The Duty That Disappeared." Crowds gathered outside Buckingham Palace, not shouting, not celebrating, just waiting, because the nation understood that something rare had happened. Anne had acted. Camilla had vanished. Charles had allowed the silence to stand. And as the public absorbed the meaning, the family prepared one final internal verdict, whether this removal would be remembered as cruelty or protection. In the end, that verdict would not be decided by headlines, but by what each person finally accepted about duty, love, and the crown. By the time the palace settled into silence again, the decision had already changed everyone. Camilla had lost the public role she fought to secure. Charles had learned that love could not always override duty. William had seen the cost of future kingship before the crown ever touched him. And Anne, the woman who opened the file, had become the blade the monarchy never wanted, but finally needed. Camilla's removal became final, without another confrontation. Her royal presence was limited to private family settings and non-public household occasions, meaning moments inside the family that did not place her before the nation as an official working figure. That mattered, because public duty is the lifeblood of royal power. Without ceremonies, charity visits, national services, and public engagements, the queen consort still had a title, but she no longer had the same visible command. Her public chapter had not faded. It had been closed. Charles made peace with that truth slowly, and every day forced him to accept it again. The king watched the palace stabilize around a new order, with duties redistributed, and the public calendar rebuilt, without Camilla at its center. That calendar mattered, because it showed the country who carried the monarchy forward, and her absence from it became the clearest message of all. Charles understood that the crown had survived, because Anne had done what he could not do, quickly enough. Camilla felt the loss in small, repeated ways. No briefing folders arrived for morning review. No ceremonial preparations waited for her approval. No car stood ready to carry her toward a charity visit, a reception, or a national gathering. The queen consort had known criticism before, but this was different. Criticism could be answered. Absence could not. She had fought for acceptance in front of the nation, and now the nation had watched that acceptance withdraw from her hands. Anne carried no victory from the decision. The Princess Royal knew the Codicil would be remembered inside the household as the hidden mechanism that forced the crown to choose discipline over sentiment. A codicil means an added instruction attached to an existing document, and this one had become the quiet instrument that changed a reign. Anne had not acted for applause. She had acted because delay had become dangerous, and because the monarchy needed one person willing to bear the blame for protecting it. William understood the final lesson with painful clarity. The prince reflected in a documented private account that the monarchy did not become stronger because the decision was painless. It became stronger because it was finally clear. He saw that Charles's reign had been reshaped, Camilla's public life had ended, and Anne's authority had been proven in the hardest possible way. The future king learned that duty does not always arrive with honor. Sometimes it arrives like a wound. The verdict left no mystery behind. Camilla's public chapter ended. Charles's reign changed. Anne stood as the force that refused to let private loyalty overrule royal survival. William saw the cost of the crown before inheriting it, and the monarchy sent one unmistakable message. No personal bond stands above the survival of the crown. There is no lingering mystery left inside this verdict. The Codicil did what it was created to do, and the royal family emerged, changed, wounded, and unmistakably ruled by duty. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.